Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. What's happening, family? Let's source up. We're about to source up. About to have a real conversation with a very, very important person who is doing a lot of important work. Dr. Arabia Molette, who's an emergency room doctor and physician. But before we get into that, and before we bring in Dr. Arabia Molette, I think we need to just take a moment of silence and say a prayer for our brother Fred, the godson, that I understand that we just lost. And if it's true, we want to send our condolences from the source, our family, our friends, everyone to that brother, as well as everybody else who we're losing. We're losing people at a very dramatic rate. So I just want everybody to just, do a moment of silence for a very talented brother who was just a great artist, great man, great person, Fred the godson. And then we'll get Dr. Arabia Molette. We'll get her on and we can talk to her. So let's just get a moment of silence for that brother. Okay, let's talk to someone who's on the front lines. Dr. Arabia Molette is our sister. She's our friend. She's no stranger to the source. She's no stranger to the hip hop community. She's no stranger to black and brown people, Hispanic, African American, all people, no, regardless what the color. She spent a lot of time in Cuba, but she spends a significant amount of time trying to save lives right now. She's always been very, very impressive, but she's one of our sheroes. She's on deck. She's ready to chime in. This is going to be a very, very important discussion, arguably one of the most important discussions that we've had. And we've had some very, very important ones. So let's bring the sister on and let's start talking to her. See if we can bring on Sister Arabia.
Hi.
Hey,
Hi,
how
Londo.
are you, my sister?
I'm okay. I'm exhausted. Frustrated.
You must be. And first, obviously, we are so proud of you and so grateful for you and all of what you're doing. And many people, when it touches them, or touches people they know directly, it sends a very serious chill and a lot of pain through us all. We just lost a young rapper, Fred the godson, who's very, very popular, very, very much, especially on the East Coast, but he was very well known. But you're seeing so many lives lost each week.
Every day.
Every day, unfortunately, and you're saving a lot of lives. So, sister, I wanna first say, I know while we're all feeling the loss to someone we know or someone we feel we know, we're just as much so hurt by the ones that we don't. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to, talk to you just to have you keep it real to us. We see you on CNN. We all happy for you. We see you on MSNBC. We see you in the Daily News, whatever. But this is home. This is home. You know what I'm saying? We was with you before, you know what I'm saying? Corona. Yes. And we're going to be with you after Corona.
Exactly.
So I just need you to keep it 100 with us in the way that I know you have at our Source 360s and other places, in the way that you can. This is an audience around the country nationally, whether they're on right now or not. It's going to continue to air for 24 hours and then more. Okay. So we're going to see thousands and thousands of people hear and see this. I want you to give it to us 100% so that we understand, our community understand what we're dealing with. And before we get into the actual issues at hand, let's talk a little bit about your background, how you was raised in the South Bronx, where hip hop was formed and came from, and, you know, attended school, medical school in Cuba. Tell us a little bit about yourself so the folks know who they dealing with, just a little bit.
Thank you. So first of all, thank you for inviting me as a guest on Instagram Live via the Source magazine. You know, I don't know if many of the younger generation or the millennials know that the Source magazine has always been very important in my life from way back in the 90s when I was in college. And it played an integral role in hip hop. Even if you weren't an artist, the fact that it was a part of our community and continues to be an advocate for our community. So I want to say thank you. First of all, my name is Dr. Arabia Molette. I am an emergency physician in the streets. You say ER doctor at Brookdale University Medical Center in Brooklyn, New York, and as well as St. Barnabas Hospital in the Bronx. I'm born and raised in the South Bronx. I came from many hardships. And when I say many, many trials and tribulations and hardships way before I became a doctor. I grew up in extreme poverty. You name it, it happened to me. As far as crime, to homelessness, to drugs, and not that I took drugs, but drugs had actually affected my family, especially during the crack epidemic during the 90s. And so I've seen my family fall to the wayside during that time. I've seen them come back up, and I come from a strong family. I also graduated, I studied medicine back in Cuba. I graduated from the Latin American School of Medicine in Havana, Cuba. It was a full academic scholarship. I lived in Cuba for many years. I continue to go back to visit. Once this epidemic ends, I'm hoping to go back and visit my home. And I've been a practicing ER doctor for several years and still out here in the streets and just doing the best that I can. And not only just myself, but my staff members, the ER staffs that I work with at both hospitals, we all in this together. It's not just myself. All of us are a team, and we're doing the best that we can to survive this epidemic. I also teach in Africa as well. So in Kenya and Sierra Leone, I teach emergency medicine. So I do volunteer my time to go back to East and West Africa to teach emergency medicine and also to work as a volunteer ER doctor.
Right. Now, Dr. Molette, you're also actually in two hospitals, one in the South Bronx and one in Brooklyn and Brookdale. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, how is that so? How are doctors such as yourself able to split duty? And then what are your hours like lately with the corona? Because everyone is saying that they're not getting sleep. And of course, you're risking your lives. Just give us a kind of picture at how you're serving two hospitals in your day-to-day, what that must be like.
The hours are very long. I usually start my shift. I used to get to work like around 6:45 in the morning so I can have at least 10 to 15 minutes to myself to actually get my thoughts together, to pray, to cry, because I know what I'm getting ready to embark on. A lot of times when I get to work, I already have palpitations and the shift haven't started yet because this has been a very traumatic experience. It still is traumatic. The hours are very long. I start around 7 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes I don't leave from work to 8:30. Sometimes 9 o'clock, depending on how busy the shifts are. And all of us, not just me, but several of my colleagues, as well as the nurses and respiratory therapists, and even the unit clerks that register the patients. And so all of us have been affected by it in so many ways. I mean, each shift, I could definitely say that everybody has cried at least once or twice, or have walked out into the ambulance bay from our emergency department, especially over at Brookdale, and have cried. Yesterday, some of us had a little powwow in the lounge that we have, so where we go to eat. And one of the nurses, that was the first time I've ever seen her cry. She usually have a smile on her face. She usually joking around and being very bubbly. But yesterday, it hit her so hard to the point where she fell into the chair and was sobbing. And I just ran over to her and hugged her. And I cried. Another physician colleague cried. Another ER nurse cried. One of the members of housekeeping staff had cried. I mean, it just overwhelmed us because we lost several co-workers at both hospitals, especially at Brookdale. We lost several co-workers. One of our nurses had lost her husband to the coronavirus. I've also lost a family friend. I also almost lost one of my cousins who was just recently discharged from the hospital with the coronavirus. She almost died. I also have several family members that are sick. And
it's a lot. It's a lot. Sorry, love. It's a lot. You know, we need you to stay strong. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think people understand how devastating this. Dwayne, can you give me some tissue? Sorry. I don't think that people fully quite understand how devastating this epidemic. First and foremost, we weren't prepared to go and to deal with this epidemic at hand, because the federal government obviously didn't initially respond to it the way other countries have responded to it. I mean, I lived in Cuba for many years. I've survived several epidemics. And I remember every time an epidemic had hit Cuba, we were preparing a year in advance for it. Not to say that it will decrease the number of deaths. I'm not saying that every country is perfect. I'm not saying this country is imperfect either, but no country is. No system is perfect. But it was a shock to me, the lack of response to this epidemic. And when back at Brookdale, I remember in February, the volume of patients that were coming into the emergency department, and even at St. Barnabas, the volume kept increasing. And there were so many sick people, and we couldn't understand why these people were so sick. And then some of our coworkers became sick, and we will swab people for the flu. It came back negative. We will do x-rays. It came back negative. I mean, we did every test that we can imagine, but we didn't know that the coronavirus had actually hit New York City. And then once the first week of March hit, the volume exploded. And this is when we realized that we were in a crisis. And it's just a slap in the face to me that the federal government didn't initially respond. And then also how people are protesting around the country for businesses to be open again, where we're not even nowhere near flattening the curve. And so the whole idea of profits over health is disappointing. When are we going to ever get to a point where that public health over profits? In Detroit, a 5-year-old girl had lost her life to the coronavirus. Is it going to take to the point where more children are going to die in order for us to take this more seriously? And not just from the level of the federal government, but even us as a community.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you and people like you are our federal government, unfortunately, because y'all are helping us to get through this. But the elected government, the United States government, they have to do better. We have to demand that they do better. But let me ask you this, and thank you for your strength. And, you're at home, so, just feel free to feel however you want.
Thank you.
Do you notice in New York in particular any decrease in new cases? Because there's been a lot of discussion about the curve flattening, and we possibly are hitting a new point where it's still horrible and tragic, but there may be a flattening of the curve and a decrease. Are you as someone in the trenches, someone who's taking care of the people, doing the best you can daily, do you see that and feel that, or is it something that just may be data and statistics that doesn't impact you, or you don't see it? What is it that you see on the front line?
So I can't say for sure that we are flattening the curve completely or we're there yet. I have to still read the statistics. I have to look at the graphs. I have to look at the volume numbers of deaths that first started versus now. But I will say this though, at the emergency department at Brookdale, the volume has gotten better, to be honest with you. I think the community overall has been helping us at the emergency department by staying home unless they develop severe symptoms, meaning that severe shortness of breath, they can't tolerate walking from the bed to their bathroom. And so the community overall between East New York, Brownsville, and Canarsie, even parts of East Flatbush, because it's only 10 minutes away, Brooklyn.
Okay.
And so, exactly. And so the community overall has been helping us to decrease the volume. I think that also too that people have been monitoring their symptoms as well. I mean, of course, we do go in what I say a bolus, meaning that it goes into different time, like it could go up and down throughout various times of the shift. It could be at 4 o'clock, the volume increase, and then at 5 o'clock, the volume decrease. And so we still have a lot of sick people there, out there in the heart of East New York, Brownsville, Canarsie, and East Flatbush. But there are also people that are really sick, not just because of the coronavirus. They're still coming in with strokes. They're still coming in with heart attacks. There's still trauma. People are still getting shot, unfortunately, or in car accidents. But and even that decreased. To be honest with you, the level of trauma had definitely decreased. What I've noticed so far in East New York and Brownsville, and so I want to applaud the community for their efforts in helping us save them, and also they were protecting us as well. People have been very respectful of not coming to inside the emergency department during this time because we're doing our best to reduce the risk of transmission to other family members and to the community, as far as the neighborhood is concerned. And so with that being said, I also want to point out that this is not a Black epidemic. This is not a people of color disease. The virus does not care about what color you are, where you come from, what zip code, the area you live, the healthcare status, or your money. This virus is killing everybody. But yet, of course, when the epidemic hit, it's going to hit the communities that are underserved, which is the Black, Latino, and Native American communities nationwide.
Yeah, and so the Black and Latino communities are getting hit nationwide. Is there anything that you think that we should be doing in particular to kind of decrease the chances? I mean, obviously people are saying a lot, but we want to hear from you. What is it that you think that when someone come in, you're saying, well, I hope they've been doing X, Y, Z, so that it gives whatever work we're trying to do a fighting chance?
First and foremost, I want to say that I know there's been reports about obesity, and I knew once the reports came out about how obesity may be one of the major factors of why people have died from the disease. I said we have to be really careful with our language, because what's happening is that there's a sort of victim blaming that I don't appreciate, even from the level of the Surgeon General, and how he disseminated a message to us saying that we have to stop the drinking and drinking of alcohol and excessive drug uses. No. Let's be realistic. Racism has led to a long-term investment in racist policies and practices and systemic structural systemic structural inequalities in the Black and brown communities, and that's the Black, Latino, as well as Native Americans. As a matter of fact, the Native American communities are dying at a slightly higher rate than Black people in the United States as we speak. The report just came out. And so it is not a people of color epidemic. And so with that being said, pre-existing conditions are common. It is not only common here in the United States, it is common in Cuba, everywhere. It's not new. It's not a new concept that people have pre-existing conditions. And sometimes it is unavoidable. So one thing I would like for us to stop doing, even as a nation, to stop placing victim blame on our patients or on our community that are suffering from pre-existing conditions. Some people, yes, I get it. There's a number of us that may not have lived a healthy lifestyle. I totally understand. I know that we also have to do better with taking care of ourselves and understanding the relationship that we have with food. But it goes beyond just food. You understand? It's the systemic structural inequality that has been in existence in this country for a long time. That's the first thing. The second thing that I would love for us to do as a community, we have to stop being surprised about the numbers that we see regarding Black people dying from the disease. I was actually surprised that people were surprised that we were actually the hardest, or we got hit the hardest. I'm like, where have we been? This has been going on. This is not a new phenomenon. When a cold hit, it becomes an epidemic for our communities at hand. And the reason why it is going back to the long systemic racism in our country and how medicine and the racism in medicine and racism and even in food and agriculture. I mean, everything that we can talk about in terms of different systems. So why are we surprised about this? History has shown us over and over and over again that the federal government do not care about poor communities. As a matter of fact, they don't even care about poor white communities. And I've worked in a poor white community. You understand? So we have to get to a point where that, what are we going to do from this point forward from the epidemic? Why don't we, as a community, create a disaster team? Each community should create a disaster team so that when this epidemic hits, we will have the means, the resources, and the function or system to be able to save our small black our businesses, our small businesses which are black owned or Latino owned or people of color owned or whatever how we name it, because I swear there's so many different terms. We need to create a system, a disaster team, not only with black and brown doctors or culturally competent doctors like myself or with nurses, but with black nutritionists. Also with economists, financial advisors, those who are teachers in the community that could create a homeschool program. So when these babies are out of school because of something like this, they're not going to fall behind once they get reinstated into school. So that's going to be a problem. Also talking to the economists, our black economists, the financial advisors, how can we save our small black businesses? So when an epidemic hits like this and we have to shut down, we have the financial means to save our businesses. Understood?
Let them know. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, we need to start this now. We don't need to keep quoting numbers and saying this is a black epidemic. I'm seeing this all over social media. And forgive me, ladies and gentlemen, for being very passionate and emotional about it. Because somebody said there's no funding.
No,
right.
Please,
and somebody said that, but it's no funding. I just said we have to start with us. We have to create. We cannot depend on others to help us. We have to create. We have the resources. We actually have the funding. We just have to prioritize what is the priority. And so I don't mean to get passionate about this, but I've been thinking about this for a long time. In the Daily News, I've written an article to ask people if you have a tablet to donate to the local ER so that we can have families communicate with each other. Believe it or not, the people in the community around Brownsville, all over New York City, not just Brownsville, East New York, even in South Bronx, people were sending tablets to our emergency department so that way that our patients can communicate with their families. That's a community effort. It's thrown back on the community. What do you know about your local hospital? Do you know that your local hospital may not have the supplies or the means to save you? Do you know your local politicians? Who are your councilmen? Who are your assemblymen? That is really important. So it's going to take a whole entire community. It's going to take a lot of us to sit down and really strategize. How can we save ourselves? Because this epidemic is going to happen again. And it may just it will happen again this summer. We're looking at a second surge because some of these cases are going up. We're seeing more cases are going up. And so it's not just enough for us to talk about the coronavirus without talking about organizing us as a people and really think about what are we doing? I think that we also failed those patients that have died, or like the young brother that just recently passed away. As a community, we also fell too, because we've seen this happen historically over and over again. When are we going to learn our lesson? When are we going to sit here and say that, you know what, enough is enough? We're going to develop a system that's going to save our communities. And this is where I'm at right now. I'm tired of crying. I am tired of crying. I'm tired of, just every time I turn around, I speak to a patient, and then 10 minutes later, I go back into the room, they are dead. I am tired of that. I am tired of when family members don't even know the history of their mother or their father, and they can't tell me their medical history. We got to do better than that. You should know your family members' medical history. Know what medications that they're taking, because when they come in, we're scrambling. Help us to save us.
A lot of people were thinking that this is an older person's disease also now. And now we know better that we're seeing people of all ages. Have you personally saw young people who thought maybe that they were immune to it, now just falling out?
The first patient that died in my care was a 20-year-old with no health risk factors.
Wow. And the types of major causes, like when they're coming in and they're just gasping for air, give us a sense of what are the symptoms, what is happening.
So the corona, this virus is so wicked. And I see some of my doctor friends are are here on social media, and they may or may not disagree with me, but I feel like this virus is worse than the HIV/AIDS epidemic because, for one, it's airborne and it's also traveling through via respiratory droplets. And so
we're gonna come back to that airborne, but go ahead. Jeez.
And so the thing is that the presentation of the coronavirus, it varies. Some people, they will come in without respiratory distress, but when you put a pulse oximetry on their finger, they're severely hypoxic, meaning that their oxygen level is really low. And they could be sitting here talking to you and I just like this, but their oxygen level is really low. And when you get the chest x-ray, the x-ray is showing bilateral pneumonia. Some people have came into the emergency department with bouts of diarrhea. That's the only symptom. And then they clinically deteriorated. Some have came in with severe headaches, vomiting. People said they had passed out. I've had plenty of patients. As a matter of fact, one said to me yesterday, Doc, the reason why I'm here because I remember getting up in the morning and I passed out on the floor. So I did a number of tests, including the head CT, CAT scan of the head, and the head CT was negative, but they lab showed that they were positive for the coronavirus. I mean, it's so many different clinical presentations, generalized muscular aches. Now, before when this virus first started, we were seeing that those who were traveling in and out of the country to China, to Italy, and other countries that got hit first, they were coming in with fever, shortness of breath, and generalized muscular aches. But then it became a disease that was more transmissible. So you didn't have to travel outside of the United States to catch it. This is how bad it got. And initially, we didn't know if this was airborne because the way it was being spread, we weren't too sure. And so now we're stating that it is airborne. And so this is why quarantining, social distancing, I would say quarantine right now is so important. We're not at a comfortable space right now to reopen the economy. If you have the entire country open, how the country is going to open if everybody's sick, if people are dying? It's people like the essential healthcare workers, like the ones that are driving the bus. There was a young man that died in Detroit. He was a bus driver. He died from the coronavirus. You have people that are delivering mail. You have people that are working in supermarkets. You have people that are working jobs that maybe the rest of the public don't want to work because it's low wage, but they're at risk. Public health over profits. I'm sorry. I know it's difficult. I've been where a lot of people did not have the money and worrying about how I'm going to pay my rent. I understand, but I love us. I want us to survive. I want us to win this. I want us to win this battle.
And so how do we make sure we are winning the battle other than quarantining and staying inside? Everybody's got that. Everybody's know they're washing their hands. Everybody's know they got to eat right, try to get their immune system up. But you're saying some things like their oxygen level is low. You're saying some things that, how do they actually test themselves and make sure that they are preventing it? And the second question is, what do you say to those people who just say, look, I don't want to go to a hospital because I don't want to be in that environment. I don't want to expose myself to an environment I may contract it if I don't have it. So I'm not going. So I'm going to die in an apartment, or I'm going to die in the house. I mean,
well,
I'm telling you, I'm not going. They're like, hell no, I won't go.
Well, put it like this. Well, first and foremost, you can be positive for the coronavirus and don't have to have symptoms. And this is how it spread even quicker because there were more people that did not have symptoms. So we say asymptomatic, but they were spreading the infection to their loved ones. Okay, so again, you do not have to present with symptoms, have to have symptoms to be positive for the coronavirus. Children can be positive for the coronavirus and can spread to their parents or older adults. But I will say this, the most important thing is monitoring your symptoms. You know when you are really sick. And I've known, and that was something that I paid very close attention to a lot of the patients that were coming in. They said, Doc, I knew that something was going on when I got up and I couldn't even walk at least 2 inches away from my bed and I was gasping for air. There's a difference. Now, when you have mild symptoms, you have mild symptoms. It feels like it. So let me just explain it this way. The coronavirus is a family of viruses. The most common type of coronavirus that all of us have been exposed to prior to this novel strand of coronavirus, it was called the common cold. Okay, it was 3 to 4 subtypes that we were all exposed to. It comes around every year, you know it. When people go to urgent care, say, Doc, I got a cold, but that was because of the common cold. That is a part of the coronavirus. This novel strand or the new strand of the coronavirus is different. It's more virulent. It has mutated. Is a virus that is behaving very differently from other viruses that we have seen. A virus is going to behave like a virus. And one of the things that I would love to express to everyone, when you have a basic level of understanding of science, these microorganisms are no different from a human being. You understand? Meaning that they come to take over and they come to kill when they need be. It's not that much different from a human being. It's not that much different what we do when we go out and some of us are, you know, that when somebody killed the next person, it's almost a similar concept. So we have to respect Mother Nature. We have to respect science. We have to respect health. In this country, unfortunately, we do not respect science and we don't respect health.
Wow.
You understand what I'm saying? And that's why it's so imperative for, as far as education is concerned, that science should be one of the priorities in education. Health should be a part of the should be a priority in education. We have lost that.
Yeah, the curriculum.
As a curriculum.
Yeah,
we're not emphasizing it enough.
In fact, we have leadership that's showing a clear disdain and disrespect for science.
Exactly.
They want to use common sense over science. Common sense. That's not sensible.
Exactly.
That's
when you have a president.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. When you have a president say, well, I'm not a doctor, but the hydroxychloroquine, and in my head, I said, holy Jesus. So now everybody's going to think that they need to get a prescription for hydroxychloroquine. This is not a definitive treatment, okay? I've had patients that were on hydroxychloroquine that I admitted to the hospital. I came back 1 or 2 days later back to work again, and they also have died. It's not a definitive treatment. We still need a treatment, a cure, and a vaccination.
Yeah.
And that is really important. When the federal government did not respond to this, and then your president had came out and said, this is a hoax, I knew it was over.
That's not my guy, yo. He's like, no, you can't get him on me. This guy here is something, you know. But he closed down China though. That's his thing. Every time someone says something, but he closed down China. As if that was, but he closed down. What he closed down was the offices that he had that actually was providing health oversight.
Exactly. You know? And he when you have a federal government that don't believe in science, I can't expect for the rest of the country to believe in science or at least take this seriously. And that was a big problem that we were facing initially because people didn't believe this epidemic was happening in New York. True, there was New Yorkers that didn't believe that this epidemic was happening. And no disrespect to Mayor de Blasio, but the initial earlier interviews that he did, he even said, go about your life, do what you want, go about your life and still enjoy going to the park, still go to work. Yeah. And he didn't initially take this seriously until Governor Cuomo stepped in and leveled up the leadership in this epidemic. And so it was it was just amazing to me that our leaders, damn man, it's just, here I go getting emotional again, but it's just, you don't understand when I see these patients and they look at me with their eyes and when they almost taking that last breath, you don't understand how much that hurts me and that hits me in the inside. It definitely pierces my soul. It's a different feeling.
So my guy Darren is just asking a very good question right now. He says, can a vaccine build up your immune system better than putting the basic vitamin C's in your body to protect yourself? Are there certain vaccines that people can actually, or certain remedies that people can use now, in your opinion, that are safe, that are scientifically and medically proven, that could actually help boost the immune system in your judgment currently?
So so let me put it like this. Historically, one of the first vaccinations that was created in the United States against the smallpox was created by an African slave named Onesimus, if I'm not mistaken. It was created in Boston. He created this vaccination back in Boston because of the fact that too many people were dying from smallpox. And he found that if you become immune to it, perhaps building up the antibodies to it will help fortify or not strengthen your system, but yet help your body to remember, oh shoot, this virus, we dealt with this before, Let us make sure that our immune system is strong enough to fight against this. So that's what, there's passive immunity and active immunity. So passive immunity is when you, like through breastfeeding, for example, there are immunoglobulins that are passed from baby to mommy if mommy is able to breastfeed, and they actually passively build up their immunity to a certain point. Active immunity is through vaccination. So the reason why that many of us have not seen high cases of measles, even though that has gone up because anti-vaxxers decided that, oh, I'm not going to vaccinate my kids. The reason why you have not seen many diseases that we get vaccinated for is because of the vaccinations. Unlike when I went to Sierra Leone, and then I've seen a lot of children with cerebral palsy. I've seen many children that came into the emergency department from diseases that you will never see here in the United States because of the vaccinations. And so we have gotten past that point, unlike many other countries around the world who barely have any physicians or doctors or nurses, or as well as hospitals, and they don't have access to. So one of the things that we are working on, and hopefully sooner than later, there is a Black scientist, immunologist that is working on a vaccination. She works for CDC. There's several ones. And I believe that Meharry is also one of the institutions. Meharry College is also on finding a cure as well as a vaccination. One of the things that you could do as a community is stay positive. Cook at home. Okay, stay in, take your vitamins. It's not a new phenomenon. This is the same thing we've been preaching for many years. Take your vitamins. Be very careful. And I want to put this out there in a warning. Be very careful when you see influencers telling you to detox, buy their products, because I know that's a big thing on social media, to buy their products, because let me tell you something. Not all alternative medicine is made equal. Okay, there are side effects to even alternative medicine that can actually ruin your liver. So be very careful, even when you're on social media and you seeing people talk about detox, but they don't really have a fully understanding what that means. They don't really have a full understanding of what physiology means and why, if you detox your intestine, how you can get rid of the good bacteria that is protecting you. So I just want people to really be careful what is being perpetuated to them when people are pushing their products to them. But again, buy your vitamins, eat your vitamins. Actually,
Eat your greens.
Eat your vitamins. Your greens have vitamins. Stay up on your greens. I eat chicken, I eat shrimp, I eat my crab legs. I'm not gonna stop. You understand?
You got time to be cracking crab legs, girl? You ain't got no time. We gonna just send you uncracked crab legs. You don't gotta crack another crab leg until this shit is over.
Whole crabs, blue crabs, crab legs, all that stuff. I still bust those crab legs down, but I prepare it in a way where that is right for me. And yes, someone said basically have access to healthy food. Somebody said not the crab legs and laughing. It's a joke, but I do love my crab legs. I'm just going to keep it real with you. But it goes back into having access to healthy food. We need to look at the community gardens and look at these empty lots that are in our communities and start harvesting our greens, start raising our own chickens. We can do this. Back in the 80s, I remember growing up in the South Bronx, the Puerto Ricans in the hood took over the empty lots and actually made farms. And we were buying from the projects. We were going to the Puerto We have to consider going back into farming. That's why I said go back into creating a disaster team so we could contact farmers to teach us how to farm.
Well, you know, I'm about to really go in on anybody and everybody that has a business or anybody that makes over 200,000 or claim they're an investor. If part of their portfolio does not include some kind of farming and disaster prevention business.
And Latrice Walker, she is.
Who?
And Latrice Walker.
You know,
I
that's
gotta give
my
a
girl,
shout out
right?
because she's been very. Yeah, I heard.
You know that's my people.
I heard I heard.
Yeah,
I heard that's your people.
Yeah, I put her through law school. That's my girl. But see, we gotta invest in each other. You know, the other person I had on here Monday, I had on Congresswoman Val Demings, who was one of the impeachment managers with Hakeem Jeffries for Trump, and she's on the short list to be Joe Biden's vice president. And she said she's going to help me because one small thing that I'm trying to do is this healthcare debt repayment act that we put out here, where any and every healthcare worker, whether you're a doctor, nurse, or supporter that have loans, we want to have the government forgive those loans.
That's right.
As a repayment, because I think that this group of people will be like the first to help lead the kind of funds and businesses that you're talking about, to invest in gardens, to invest in these disaster prevention programs that you're talking about. So I would love for you to help join us in a very,
of course,
very leadership way. And I think it's got to come from us. We can't expect other people to kind of look out for us. And I think that this is just another reminder that we have to do for ourselves, and as well as demand accountability outside as well.
That's right. And even you hit it right on the nail. Not only that for us to take on this leadership and start saving ourselves, but again, doesn't mean that we don't hold these people accountable for the lack of response to this epidemic. And again, it's just that I'm down. I'm totally down for Oregon, not just only in Brooklyn, but even in Queens. I mean, we could take this beyond to Newark, to New Orleans, to Detroit, to Chi.
Oh, so nationwide.
We get to nationwide, and really take this seriously. Again, we are calling for people, like, you don't have to be a Dr. Molette. You understand? You don't have to be a nurse. You don't have to be a celebrity in order for you to be down with this movement. But the thing is, if you have a talent or a resource that can contribute to this, by all means, I'm welcoming it. I'm still looking for answers. I'm still finding ways or looking for ways to help our community. And I just can't do it by myself. It is not about me, because I'm here today and I may be gone tomorrow. But at least the thought is out there. Back in Cuba, and I'm going to say this in Spanish and then I'll translate it in English. My Cuban auntie will, every Saturday, I remember that, by the end of the week, I was so burnt out from medical school. I lived in Havana. As a matter of fact, my house is next to Malcolm X Projects in Havana. There's a Malcolm X Projects in Havana, and my house is right next door to Malcolm X Museum. If you're more than welcome to come, London, in Havana. You're more than welcome to come to visit. But I remember, like, at the end of the week on Saturday, if I didn't have to do a 24-hour shift, and I would wake up in the morning, I would go to the rooftop, drink my little rum, and pray real quick, say a prayer to God and to the ancestors to give me the strength to continue to do this. And my Cuban auntie will come up to the rooftop and will say to me, Mollete, el Señor nunca dará una visión sin los recursos. That means God never gives you a vision without providing you the resources. I really want people to really understand that. God never gives you a vision without providing the resources. If you have a vision, you best to believe it's right in front of you, those resources. You may think that because you don't have money, you can't contribute. There are other ways to contribute. You may think that you may not have the clout, or you may not think that you're Londell, you don't have the clout with, celebrities and knowing certain people, but it's okay though. If you have the talent and the resource to contribute, by all means, bring it. And so I really want people to put that in mind, that God will never give you a vision without providing the resource. This is our vision. It is time for us to act. It is time for us to stop allowing those to disrespect us, and stop allowing us to fall behind. We also have to hold our community leaders in accountability as well. We also have to hold these politicians, black, white, whoever, also accountable for not even saving our local hospitals and emergency departments, and not checking to see what medical supplies. It was a shame. It's a shame that I was receiving donations for protective gear. I received a donation for protective gear from Bulgaria.
Wow. So how's that now? As now supplies are more plentiful, and everybody, you think, is more comfortable? Yes. You have what you need?
Yes, for the most part, yes. We go through our what we call PPE or protective gear every day because of the amount of patients that we see. But other than that, like, we have gotten so much better with our protective gear. I want to say that people from all over have been donating protective gear to both hospitals, and it's so appreciated. We are intubating, meaning putting breathing tubes down people's throat less because of the fact that we were finding initially at the height of the epidemic that people were dying on the vents. So we are not necessarily rushing to put people on the vent. We are trying to give people a chance, these patients, when I say people, the patients, a chance to work through this. And so far, so good. We've been doing okay with that. And I mean, it was horrendous at the beginning of the epidemic, but by God had answered our prayers, and people have been coming through for Brookdale I mean, tremendously. And I want to thank everybody for coming through. I know that Brookdale has a bad reputation. I know that I hear it all the time. Before the epidemic, I hate Brookdale. Brookdale's a terrible hospital. But nobody can sit here and say that during this epidemic that we didn't do the best we could to take care of our people. And we just asking people to be gentle with us. We're trying to keep our head above water without drowning ourselves.
Well, I'm glad you started to shift there, because I did want to talk about the recovery stories, some of the positive stories. We talked a lot about the real. Let's talk about some of the things where God is mercy and is delivering people to better health. Tell us about some of those positive stories, Dr. Molette.
So, so every time a patient is extubated, that means a tube is being removed from their throat or from their airway. There's a song that plays overhead. One of the songs that's played overhead is "I'm a Survivor" by Destiny's Child. And so that means that when we hear that song played in the overhead system in the hospital, the patient has been successfully extubated and they're doing well without being on, after being removed from the vent, and or a patient has been discharged from the hospital floor after a number of days. So they've been there for 2 to 3 weeks and they've been successfully discharged from the hospital. They have been in a full and basically in really good recovery. Recovery doesn't end just because you've been discharged from the hospital. The recovery is still a long way. I had a cousin that was admitted to the hospital for 2.5 weeks, and she just coming through. I mean, she's still recovering.
Right.
She's still getting her strength back, but that's one of the ways that we know throughout the hospital that a patient has survived and has been successfully extubated and also been discharged by playing "I'm a Survivor" with Destiny Child. I did put in my request for a different song.
What about the hip hop? What hip hop songs we got?
So 2 songs. So it's actually really 3 songs that I've requested. I don't know if this is gonna happen. So one song is what's that? Ain't no stopping us now.
Yeah.
That's one of the songs I
requested. Ain't no stopping us now. McFadden and Whitehead.
Exactly. You know what? And then the other 2 songs was Empire State of Mind from Jay-Z and Alicia Keys. And the third song that I requested was New York by Fat Joe and Ja Rule and all of them. So in that way that the community and the hospital, the community overall can hear that, no, they from New York.
Yes.
New York is strong.
Yes.
We're going to get through this. And these patients survive. So those patients are our hero.
Yeah,
they are our hero. And we dance. As soon as we hear this music, as soon as we hear Survivor, to be honest with you, downstairs in our emergency department, we start dancing, praising God, clapping, and crying at the same time.
Well, you all are our heroes too. And, you're not just doing the medical work, you're also like a therapist and a counselor and a spiritual confidant to these people. I mean, did you all have to go and take internal kind of courses, or it was too much on the fly? You just had to go to your own humanity and just care for people?
When hope is lost, that's when my faith increased.
Yeah.
I have to rely on my faith.
Yeah.
And there was many times that I thought this patient might not make it. But that silent prayer helped myself and helped the staff. And then we just prayed over the patients. We just asked God bless us with the knowledge and the understanding of what's going on. And we, at times, say our prayers for these patients and for us. And so for me, it wasn't a course that I had to take. It was through life experiences. If you know my story, I come from a story of hardships and many trials and tribulations. I was a teen mom at the age of 17 years old. I mean, I gave birth at the age of 17. And then later on, my son was murdered. My sister was murdered. At the age of 11 years old, growing up in the projects and watching and seeing my mother struggle through her own mental health issues. I've actually witnessed my mother attempted to commit suicide. My father was on drugs. Everything around me, there were times that we didn't have anything to eat. We lived in shelters. I slept on trains. I slept in the parks. So I experienced homelessness. A lot of things that many of us in this country have experienced, I understand from that level. So it's like, what is for me is for me. And what has happened to me did not kill me. And I refuse to believe there's no hope when it comes down to this epidemic. I strongly believe that there is hope. I do believe that we will get through it, but we have to be patient. And that's the thing that I need people, especially New Yorkers, to understand. Be patient. I know it's scary. I know it's frustrating. I know you used to be hustling and figure out ways to make ends meet. But your life means so much more than a mighty dollar. because that money is not going to get buried with you. It's not going to get buried with me. And so I only utilize my experiences, my life experiences, to help me to get through these times, and also be a witness to those that are coming to the emergency department.
And what do you advise those of us who are not on the front lines out there doing day to day to help you all? Now, I asked you questions, what can we do to help ourselves? But what can we do to help you and others who are on the front line day to day? You know, for me, I've got a business, I've got staff. I'm just trying to make sure that they can put food on their table, stay up. Trying to pass legislation, trying to raise money, calling all kind of influential people to put money in. Latrice, in fact, called me up, trying to call this one and that one. I don't want calling people, raising money. What would you say to the average person that's out here? What can we do so that we can have our average efforts lead to a collective, support for what you all are doing on the front line?
Ooh, I think we spoke about it initially. The first part is organization. I think, to be honest, which is going to help out a lot. I will say that continue to check on your local hospitals to see what is needed, and gather people to help us as well. Just see what we need as far as medical supplies or anything else that you think like, wow, when I went to this hospital in Park Avenue or Long Island, I noticed that they had this. Start to advocate for our healthcare locally. I will say that it's beautiful that people have been writing letters and cards. We've received a lot of cards, beautiful cards from the community, and even outside of New York. People saying that we're heroes, even though we don't feel like we are heroes. Sometimes we feel like we're not doing enough, but the level of love and unconditional support that we've been receiving just from a card itself means a lot. And again, I think the most important thing that what I need from everybody to do is leveling up on organization, leveling up on ideas of what we're going to do this point forward, because it makes no sense for us to keep talking about the number of percentage of African Americans and Latinos and Native Americans that are dying from the disease if we're not putting things into action to make sure that if this epidemic happens again, we don't have the same numbers. So to make it clear, organization is much more important. Londell, I need you. I want to be down with you in terms of making this happen. I'm not here for clout. I'm just putting that out there. I don't care about getting paid. I'm putting that out there. That is not important to me. Right now, what's important to me is saving lives and also having our babies be the future leaders of our community. And hopefully they will be future doctors and scientists as well that can contribute to medicine.
Well, you are down with me. I'm down with you. I'm not about getting paid for me, but I am about us using our resources so we can get paid to pay what we need to help those who can't help themselves. And you got my information, my number. And if you don't, you'll get it again. I'm so grateful that you shared so much knowledge and you did it from a real place. I had to have you on. You know, we've been trying to get you for a while, but you've been saving lives and talking to them bigger platforms. But you know, we got 100 million on our platform. You know what I'm saying?
Don't be shady.
Just so
Don't be shady. Listen, let me tell you, you know what's so crazy? I'm gonna definitely put this out there, and you got to be careful what you ask for.
Yeah.
Last year, I was on your panel for Source 360. That wasn't last year, it was the year before. So that was what, 2018, right.
Was that before your podcast? Was that before your big podcast, The Visit?
Yes, it was before that. It was definitely before that. Even though I didn't get invited again to the second one, I was like, you know what? It's okay though. I'm a small fry. I get it. I'm a small fry, but you know, it is what it is. But no, seriously, I literally had asked God last year. I said, God, I would love to have more media presence because I feel like I can save more lives, not only in the emergency department, but outside of the emergency department, and really try to put in true information, not misinformation about healthcare, our issues at hand. Then I got crickets. It was quiet. 2018-19 was quiet. Part of 2020 was quiet. And then boom, this epidemic hit. All of a sudden I'm on CNN and I'm on these different various media outlets. And I say that to say that God, you know, we don't work in our timing, God works with our timing. And so I am appreciative of having this platform to continuously spread the message, spread the love, And I just want to let people know that I'm not in here for this to be famous or anything like that. Like, I'm struggling like the rest of you guys. I am
Well,
struggling with the losses of people at that emergency department and even personally from my own family. And so
yeah.
thank you for this platform. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, those of us who are pure at heart and do it for the right reasons, when you have the platform, it can kind of be overwhelming because the need is so great. So what I say to you is, as much as you're taking care of others, take care of yourself. Make sure you surround yourself with people who can help block and tackle for you and share the same goals, so that your vision, your interests, and your real interests combine with others who have similar interests, so that we can get results and things done. And that's very, very important. We have to take time to make time for each other and
That's
connect the
right.
dots, right? So,
That's right.
obviously there are a number of doctors that are also doing this work, doing great work, but I know you and know your heart. And I wanted to make sure that you had a chance to speak directly to our audience, so that I can actually do my part to help us to achieve the goals that our
That's right.
community needs. And so I'm going to let you get back to your work of saving lives and doing the business of the people. But just know that we're here, and there are much, much bigger platforms than even the source that we have access to. I just mentioned to you someone who may very well be a next vice president, but even Biden, Sharpton, I don't care, all of them. We're going to get in touch with them. We're going to make them do what they need to do.
That's right.
There's one sister internationally, Dr. Attila Shabazz, who is the eldest daughter of Malcolm X, who is my dear sister that I talk to regularly. I do want to connect you two up when you have time, because I think, her and her Pilgrimage Foundation would be ideal for some of the things you're talking about. And just know that I'm here. We're going to get it going. I'm going to start doing the organization for you. So when you come out, and when we come out, we already have some motion, and we're not just
That's
waiting.
right.
We're gonna have
That's
some
right.
movement, okay? That's
That's
word.
right.
That's word,
That.
okay? So
Thank you,
thank you so
Adele.
much, my
Appreciate it.
sister. I tell you what, you may not be getting no sleep and everything, but you look great, and God has got His light on you. The
Thank
light
you.
is on your left side too, by the way. Your left side. All right, my love. Look, be good. Thank you, my sister. Thank you so much. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Just reach out to me direct. Hit Sonya up.
Yep.
Hit Michelle up. All your people.
That's right.
Or hit me up directly. You got my number.
That's right. I do. I'm I'm going to hit you up later on today. So.
Yeah, please. You know that.
Thank you.
And I'm going to get Latrice. And I'm going to get Latrice again, because she hits me up. But we are going to pass that act that I just talked about. We're going to get that done. I don't know. You probably didn't have a chance to see that. Did you see that?
No, I didn't. I didn't get a chance to see it.
I'm going to just send you a little clip of it, just a little bit. But that's just the Val Demings. We are going to push this act through, and you'll be proud of the work we're doing, as we're proud of the work you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.
Take care. Okay, that was Dr. Arabia Molette. She's doing her service to the community and to our people. There's a lot we need to do. I want us to pray for all of the people we've lost. I want to pray for all the people who've recovered, because they may have recovered today. That doesn't mean that they're fully out of the woods for tomorrow. I want to pray for all of those who are healthy, that they stay healthy. I want to send a prayer to everyone. I want to pray for our leaders. I want to even pray for Trump, that he gain wisdom and insight and look to the creator and the scientists for guidance, and not to his own understandings. Thank you so much for joining us again. I cannot emphasize it more. We have to take care of ourselves. And to a lot of the people who, just want to see the music, just want to see hip hop, just want to see that lifestyle, just understand that we're the source, and we cover everything about the community. These rappers are rapping about the realities of the life. And there's more than the music that goes into the lyrics, into the storytelling, into the creativity of what we know as hip hop. That creativity and that level of wit, life understanding, story narratives. That comes from a very real place. It comes from the social, political, and economic realities of a community, of a people, locally and worldwide. We have to make sure that our people are healthy locally and worldwide. And so thank you so much for understanding. And, you know, our ratings will be whatever they are. But with respect to the source, as long as I'm the owner, we're always going to give you pure love, quality content, and do the best that we can. We're 100% Black and brown owned, and we're going to be responsible and accountable. And thank you so much for supporting us, and continue to do so. And we'll continue to support you and bring you the best in news, music, culture, and politics. God bless. Have a great day.